All right, what up, guys? So today we're going to be reacting to Brett Cooper. But before we get too much into it, the title of her video is Get Married and Have Kids. Now, I want to make it clear that in 2025, so in 2025, conservatives are always trying to push and sell marriage. Now, you might ask, why would they do this? Who cares what you're doing with your, you know what I mean? Like, it's not their business. But what they'll do is they'll try to shove marriage down your throat as a man. And I want to show you how it is actually impossible to have a traditional marriage in this country. So anything that the conservatives are saying when it comes to having a traditional marriage is actually playing pretend, because it is impossible to have it. So a traditional marriage goes God, man, woman, kid. Okay, so in a traditional marriage, the woman has to submit to the man is supposed to submit to God. Now, the problem is in this country, women own the children. Women get custody of the kids the majority of the time. They get alimony, they file for divorce the majority of the time. They are the ones filing for divorce and often leaving the man in ruins. So when there's a dynamic with two people, when you're in a deal, and you know that the other person is most likely to leave, can leave you at any time, it has the power to really ruin your life, you can't be in a traditional marriage, because who has the final say on if the marriage is traditional? As a man, I hate to break it to you fellas, it's not you. You do not have the final say. You have no say. Because if the woman, now a lot of men like to flex their masculinity here, and I don't mean to insult you. I can't imagine what it's like to be a man in this country. I really can't. I think if I was in your shoes, I think I would go crazy. I really would. I'm not, thank God. but you know, I think I would go crazy. And so what happens in these situations is the man, they think they have some way to enforce and keep the woman and the child in line. But if we're being honest, guys, another human person, you can't fully control. You cannot control if your wife starts watching a TikTok and decides TikTok's better than you and it's time to go. You can't monitor 100% who we're friends with. I mean, hopefully you're a busy guy. You got better things to do than watch your wife 24/7, So at the end of the day, if the woman decides to be a good woman, that's up to her. It's really her choice. Now, what conservatives will say is they'll say, get married. So we have the ring here. And they'll say, find some love. So here's a girl. Woohoo. Smile. Here's a man. And we say, find love, get married, have babies. And that's really what the conservatives try to sell you. And this would make sense if they would push reform marriage first. Now, it's interesting because if you ask conservatives, they'll say, the laws will never change. We can never fix family court, and that may be true. But it's interesting because they do not have that sentiment with other issues. When it comes to trans issues, conservatives often draw a lot of attention to and push reforming some of the school system that indoctrinates trans children. But when it comes to family law, why does the Daily Wire only have, one episode every 100 talking about family court? If they're so concerned about the birth rate and family court and the culture today, why do they not push for marriage reform so that traditional marriage can exist? Imagine if tomorrow men actually owned their children. Okay, ladies, you want traditional outcomes? Well, men get custody 100% of the time. Would conservative women be for this? Well, men always get the custody. No. And so what you're going to notice is there's a lot of things that subtly give women, power in this country. So an example is if you have social media as a woman, you have access to other men. You can be visible and other men can message you at any time. The equivalent of this would be a man approaching women in a bar trying to get laid, is what men really are dealing with on full display. The other thing that women subtly have is reputation. That comes with social media. So imagine Brett Cooper, if she so chose, tomorrow she could come out and say her husband is an abuser, and all the men would, coddle her. And I'm not saying she would, right? She's one of the few divorces I don't predict, actually. I think it might work out. I wouldn't bet on it, but I would put her on more likely to work out than not work out. But that still gives her leverage. Earning her own money gives her leverage. She has the money to leave if she so chooses. So the subtle gaslighting that happens in conservatism is the women do not advocate for marriage reform. They don't advocate for deleting the social media. They don't advocate for giving up any power at all. Zero, nip, naysky, none. And yet they still market a traditional marriage. And when you ask, were you a virgin on your wedding day, that you would think would be a prerequisite, the answer is always no, naysky, nada. Now, I am not trying to impose judgment, right? I am not one to be the one to judge, but I can identify what I'm looking at. And what I often get with conservative women is they market themselves as one thing, but they are not that. Now, the equivalent would be me going to a store and I say, I want to buy bread. And they keep handing me potatoes. And I say, that's a potato. And they say, no, that's bread. And I say, I don't think that is bread. That's a potato. And it's just this subtle gaslighting that goes on forever. Now, I'm not saying being a potato in this case is wrong or bad or not the way it's supposed to be. But what I am saying is it's not what you're selling. And until there is marriage reform, you cannot have a traditional marriage in this country. It does not exist. It is a thing of the past because it's only traditional if the woman says it's traditional. If she wants to ruin your reputation on social media, she can do it. If she wants to steal your money, your house, and your children, she can do it at any time if she feels like it. I've even read stories of women going overseas and abandoning their families. And I don't say this with a happy heart, even though I do have a happy tone. It's just how I talk. But there is just it does not exist. So when conservatives say get married and have a family without the reform part, they're sending men to the slaughterhouse. Now, I think you might think you might say, Pearl, that is overdramatic. They are not doing that. Well, I actually do take it that serious. The reason I take it that serious is because men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after divorce. If you sell a bottle of pills, if you sell a medical product, and one person dies out of 100, or even out of 200, 300, 400 men, even if it's 1 out of 500, you can get sued for pushing that product or selling that product. But with conservatives, they sell this product, but hold no responsibility over the outcome and are even dishonest about how bad your odds are. Your odds are worse than, we're going to have an essay video out this week, but your odds are worse than what they're saying. The other issue is conservatives allow women to use sex as a weapon to get what they want. So the one leverage men do have in this country, and I'm not saying they should use this, but we have to think, men do not have the power of the courts. Men do not have the power of stealing her money. Men don't really have much power when it comes to this dynamic. Now, the one power that men do have is sex, cheating, other women. We all know women behave very different when they're jealous, completely different. And I'm not recommending men use this, but conservatives say it's immoral to cheat on your wife, and you could say it is. But they do not have that same energy for women that don't sleep with their husbands. And what a lot of men wind up in is they don't want to be a bad person. But now they're in a sexless marriage. Their wife is kind of fat. And they're just kind of cooked because they want to be a good person. They're not even allowed to go have sex with someone else forever. Any leverage that men do have, conservatives have a tendency to shame them out of using and saying they're bad people. Now, I am not suggesting it's a good thing that men do it, but I sometimes think, can I blame them? Can I blame guys for doing whatever means possible to get any sort of leverage in this country? They have none. They don't have the police on their side. They don't have the media. They don't have anything. So at times I can see where they're coming from. Conservatives are almost worse in a way than liberals, because at least the liberal women are honest. They're up front. They say, I'm a whore. I like sex, yada, yada. Conservatives try to shame men into doing this. They suggest they're bad people if they don't want to enter in a contract that does not favor them. And you see this shaming language all the time from men on the right. Even Candace Owens recently had an interview with Nick F., and she was shaming him for not wanting to enter in a contract that completely favors the woman. It's not traditional. It can't be traditional. And you can tell that the men have no leverage in these marriages because of how their wives act. So anyways, that's my 2 cents for that.